Hey Sainers, welcome back to the Saints TV YouTube channel. It's getting to that pointy end of the season, a couple of weeks to go, and contract talks is always a big talking point. At this point, because we know once the season's done, there's going to be a lot of players leaving, a lot of delistings, all that sort of stuff. So this is a list off Reddit, a couple months old, so I don't think anything's updated since then, to be honest. So I think all these players are still in the same position, which is crazy. We've got the most out-of-contract players pretty much in the competition. So the next 2 weeks are going to be make or break for a lot of these players. There's a couple already I can spot that I'll just take them off this list. Cooper Sharman, he's sticking around. We know that. He's not going anywhere. But the rest is kind of up in the air. So I thought let's just go through each and let's just discuss them. We don't have to say whether they stay or go. You can put that in the comments, but this is kind of my gut feel of, I guess, the situation that some of these boys might be in. Angus McLennan, definitely would keep him around. I think he's, the perfect sort of Jimmy Webster replacement. Obviously, Jimmy's further down in the unrestricted free agents. But Angus, last couple of weeks has been pretty solid. I think he's been pretty clean. He looks like a footballer. He looks like a guy that could grow into the role, and I think he's definitely worth persisting with that back line, especially, youth. I know Ross said a couple of weeks ago that if he had the option of senior or youth, he's going to elect to go youth, and that's the case with McLennan over Webster. So whether that stays this week, I don't know, but I'd absolutely persist with Angus McLennan. I think he deserves to stick around. Ben Patton's in a very precarious position. I've loved Patto. He hasn't really had a go. He's been injured, obviously. Broke his leg a couple of years ago. So he hasn't really been the same player since. He was really good in 2020. I don't know if it's... it wouldn't surprise me if we shop him around a little bit, see if there's any clubs that are interested in him. But he's in a tough position. So I don't expect him to be at St Kilda next year. Just based on how the season's gone and the fact that he hasn't played many games. I think Ross has given him a couple of goes and he hasn't really grabbed them. So that's one to watch for me. Cooper Sharman, definitely sign on. Give him a couple of years, give him 2-3 years. He's going to be a gun, very important player for us, and he stood up in the absence of Max King so far. Dan Butler, I'd speculate, but I think I've heard a couple of rumours that maybe a 2-year deal's on the table for him. Just a pretty stable extension. He's still in that age bracket, mid-20s, I believe, maybe a bit older, but he's in that demographic that we like. Dougal Howard definitely would keep him on. I think, there's not really any other options at the moment, especially if we lose Josh Battle, which is based on his interview from yesterday, looking maybe more likely than not. Dukes is our only real key fullback at the moment. We've got James Van Ness, but he's been out injured all season, so I definitely think that Dukes deserves at least a 1-year contract and go from there. I don't think it would be beyond that, but Dukes definitely to be at the club next season. Isaac Keeler, I would stick with. He's raw. He's doing well at Sandy. I wouldn't rule him out without at least debuting him. I'd love to see him and Max Heath in that bracket to play and just to see what they've got. I don't like really seeing clubs decide on players before they even get a go at the AFL level. I think it's arrogant to think that you know how they're going to go before you even give them a chance. So I think Isaac Keeler, I'd stick around. Jack Hayes is an interesting one. He did play at Sandy this week. He kicked 2 goals, I think. So maybe 1 year, but it honestly wouldn't surprise me if just this injury, riddled career so far is enough for us to say, you know what, maybe it's best we part ways. But he's obviously a cult hero and everyone loves him. So I think that might be taken into account, but we'll wait and see. That's a one to watch for me. James Van Ness, persist with. He's one that I'm really bullish of if he can get his body right. He's a big boy. He's the prototype fullback, mullet, Stephen May style player that I think we desperately need and we just need to persist with, because in 3-4 years' time, if we can get him fit, get him firing at VFL level, and then eventually debut him, I think he could be really valuable for us long term. Matty Allison's the enigma of the football club. Not really sure where he sits. He hasn't debuted yet. He's been around for a long time. He's had a couple of games at VFL level where he's dominated, even in pracky games pre-season. I remember, was it start of last season where he looked like finally he could announce himself and get a gig at the in the seniors, and then he got injured. So he constantly has that where he shines a bit, gets injured, and then goes missing for 10 games. So he's a really frustrating one. And again, one to watch. I'm not sure if we'll see him at the club next season, but again, I hope he gets a gig. I'd love to just see some of these players just play, but again, we've got 2 big games, and maybe the week to debut players was against Richmond, and we missed that boat. Max Heath, I would stick with. 1-year contract would be nice. I want to see him at least play, like Isaac Kilda. I want to see him play. He's been around for a while, but again, he's a big man. A lot of people think that he's got the traits like Rowe that moves around the ground pretty well. But fitness-wise, still not up to scratch, and I think that's the big watch. But I would stick with him. Ollie Houghton, I think, is doing good things at VFL level and slowly building, and I think a lot of people don't know much about him, but he's got a lot of talent, and I definitely think he's one for the long-term plan as well. So I would say that he would stick around. Ronnie Burns goes without saying. I absolutely love Ronnie, and I love what he's doing under Ross, and I think Ross values him really highly. So a 1-year extension or 2 years even would be worth it. He's still very young, and he's, to me, the perfect sort of player that Ross loves. You know, he just does what you need to do every single week. He's missed a bit of football. He's gone back to the VFL. He just does what he needs to do without absolutely dominating. He's a very clean player, and he's very valuable, I think, internally. And yes, definitely going to get a new contract for sure. Zach Jones, he attacks the game, but is he part of the long-term plan? Probably not. You know, if we've got other midfielders coming in, Hunter Clark, Garcia, Filippo, Owens, Winhager, Liam Henry, if we've got all these players coming in fit and firing, Jack Steele, you know, what happens there? If we offer him 1 year, you don't want to get rid of too many senior players. Like if Seb Ross ends up retiring and Brad Crouch is just out of favour and he's just not at the club next season, you can't be losing this many senior players in an off-season. So, based on his form in the last couple of weeks, 1 year deal on modest salary, I don't think would go against it. I think it's good to have senior players, especially at VFL too, for some of the young kids. He's obviously a player that a lot of people respect, and he gives it his all. And I think a lot of the footballers, internally love him, and he's a family man. He had his kid in the rooms after the game against Richmond. I think, these sort of players are more important than maybe what their output on the field is. And I think he's worth sticking with, but that one's one to watch again. Jimmy Webster, that's a tough one. I've loved Jimmy for so long, and at the start of the year, he was in my best 23. Not sure now with McLennan, with Stocker, but if you're losing Ben Patton, I think it'd be silly to lose Jimmy as well. I think even a 1 year deal for Jimmy, he's senior, you know what you're going to get from him. Similar to Zach Jones, I think it would be risky to lose him. Imagine losing Battle as well in one off season. I think that's a lot of backmen that usually are the go-tos, the ones that are pretty consistent. You don't want to lose too many of them. So again, 1 year deal would be nice, but wouldn't surprise me if either he retires or something else. I can't see him going to another club though. So it's either if we give him a 1 year deal or maybe he wraps up, but I'm not sure there. Josh Battle, geez. I think he's going to go. That's my gut feel. I think he's going to go, and I think we're going to get a solid pick in the top 6 or 7, and we're going to use that for a gun mid and get 2 mids in the draft. I think that's the focus. I think that's the long-term plan. As much as Josh Battle's been amazing for us in the last 2 seasons, if he wants to go and play for his childhood club at Hawthorn and they're paying way overs, then you take it, you get the compensation, and you move on and you grow from that. So I know a lot of people love Josh and they want him to stay, but if Hawthorn are offering him $850, $900, I just can't imagine we'd want to be paying him that much. I just don't think it sets a good precedent for the rest of the team, if we're paying overs to keep him and we sacrifice a potential gun midfielder in the long-term plan. Liam Stocker I love what Liam does, and I think everyone at the football club does, including the fans, and definitely want him to stick around. So I think, a 1 year deal for Liam Stocker would be fair. Mason Wood, 1 or 2 year deal would be great. We know what Mason does. He's an consummate professional, And he's really good with the young kids. We know that. That's been talked about a lot. And he has high standards for himself, but also for the football club, and is a very, very valuable starting 22 player on the wing. So there's no way Mason Wood is going to be anywhere other than St Kilda next season. Riley Bonner, that's a tough one. We signed him on at the end of last season, delisted from Port. Again, it's one of those ones where I can see us parting ways pretty quickly, but also he's a senior player. Just at the VFL, sign him on for 1 year. Wouldn't surprise me. Seb Ross, I think, probably wraps up. I think, AFL has caught up to him. I think the pace of the game, I think where we need to go, it's probably not with him in it. As hard as that is to say, I think, Seb's given his all for the football club, and he's been injured a lot this season, and we've had to find ways in the midfield without him. And although he has played a couple of good games this season, I just don't think the long-term plan is there. And I think wouldn't surprise me if he calls time. So that's one to watch. Tim Membry, up in the air. His form lately is a massive tease. He's been really good. Earlier in the season, he wasn't. We all know about his off-season and how interrupted it was. I'd love to see Tim play on for one more year. I think it'd be really important with King coming back from injury. But again, is there value in losing someone like Tim? I don't know. That's one to watch. And Tom Campbell, I think Campbell could just stick around until he's 50, to be honest. He dominates VFL. He's the ultimate clubman. He won the award last season. I think it's worth just giving him another 1 year deal, especially with Max Heath and Isaac Killer yet to debut. I think it's important that they have a senior player that they get to play with and train with every single week. And, set the standards for them. And Tom Campbell's the ultimate professional. He's just come off like a career best game, 50 hit-outs, 25 touches. I think everyone at the football club, VFL, AFL level, would love to see Tom Campbell stick around. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't just persist with someone that's so professional. Just doesn't get that many opportunities at AFL level, but he just does what he needs to do. And I think he trains the house down every week and plays just... He hasn't had a bad game in the VFL. Like, he hasn't. So I think a 1 year deal for him wouldn't surprise me. So it's a tough one, Saners. There's a couple there that I think you can probably cross out. And then there's a couple there that I've got massive question marks on, could go either way. But at the end of the day, you've got to look at the long-term plan of this club and where we're going to be in 2-3 years' time. And are those players going to be there? They're going to be valuable. Or is it worth losing some now for compensation? Or just biting the bullet and saying, you know what, you're not part of the plan, So this is going to be a very interesting off season. Obviously trades and all that stuff is going to come into play, but this is just currently the contract situation. Comment your thoughts. Let me know how you're feeling. And it's never nice talking about this stuff, to be honest, because I've spoken to a lot of these players and I know it's, to us it's just contracts, but to them it's their job. But at the end of the day, it's what's best for the football club, and hopefully all these decisions will be what's best for the football club, and can frame the list in a way that gets us closer to that that elusive flag in a couple of years' time, hopefully. So let me know your thoughts, Saners. That is the video. Comment, like, and subscribe. My preview will be up very, very soon for the Geelong game, so keep an eye out for that. And as always, go you mighty Saners. See you guys.